Howdy Shop Warrior. I've got my shop packed full of shelves so you can get a side-by-side comparison of all these shelves. We're going to run through the features of all of them, talk about the pros and cons to help you figure out which one is best for you. Let's get into it. I've got a video for each of these shelves where I go through each of them in detail and I review them. And I've also got a video for each of these showing you how to put them together. So if you want to see the nitty-gritty details on any of these shelves, I've got a video for each of them. And also I've got a link to all of these in the description below. If you want to see what other people are saying about them, check out reviews, see what the latest prices are, you can check that out in the description. In reviewing these shelves, one of the questions I had was, well, how much weight do I really need these shelves to hold? Because what's really funny is that on the boxes of these, it says like, you know, it can hold 600 pounds and 1,000 pounds, yet on the packaging, they show stuff on the shelves that could not weigh more than 10, 20 pounds. So it begs the question, how much weight do you really need your shelves to hold?
This is to me the most silly one. 4,000 pounds total capacity, 800 pounds per shelf. Let's look at what they have on here that weighs 800 pounds. Gallon of paint? Roundup? Dog bones? Water hose. Maybe the charcoal. There we go. There's 800 pounds, evenly distributed. I just think it's so silly.
I've got a little video here we'll cut to where I've weighed different things to get a sense of how much weight you might actually need. Here are 3 bins, the heaviest ones I could find around my house. So I have a bin, plastic bin full of books. I have a bin full of sporting equipment and baseball gloves, tennis rackets, baseballs, etc. And a bin full of power tools. Most of the shelves could hold 2 of these, maybe 3 at the most. So if I find the heaviest bin, I multiply it by 3. That gives me a sense of the maximum amount of weight that I need a shelf to hold. Let's talk about how much each of these weigh. The lightest box is actually this box of books at 29 pounds. And then if we multiplied that by 3, it would be 87 pounds. So almost 90 pounds if we had 3 boxes of books like this on one shelf. Sporting equipment, this is 37 pounds. And when we multiply that by 3, that would be 111 pounds. And then for the tools, now this has 2 of these. Funny story, I thought I had lost mine, so I went and bought a new one, and then of course found it a few months later. So I have two of these in here, a couple of jigsaws, and then some other tools. So it's pretty loaded. And this comes in at 59 pounds. So when we multiply that times 3, that would be 177 pounds. That was the heaviest box I could find around my house. So even if I rounded that up to say 200 pounds, that seems to be for me about the maximum amount of weight that I need on any given shelf. I probably want, give myself a little bit of a buffer. So maybe 250, 300, that would be the range of weight that I would be looking for in a shelf. Which one holds the most weight? That's one of the big distinguishing features between all these shelves is the weight that it can hold.
Which shelf can hold the most weight? Well, I put it right on the paper, so it should be pretty easy. The Edsel Premier here at 1,000 pounds per shelf. And you can probably see why. You have this nice metal rack, kind of 2 metal pieces there reinforced, and completely metal frame. So you get 1,000 pounds out of that. Next down, 800 pounds, the Edsel Muscle Rack. This has this compressed wood in it, and there is no support or anything underneath this. It's just this board. I don't know how they got 800 pounds out of this, but they did. Then moving down, we have the style selections, one of these metal, all metal ones, 350 pounds, and then the 3 plastic ones. We have 250, 200, and 200. So if weight is really important consideration, you're going to be putting some really heavy things on here. I think the probably best one for the weight is going to be the Edsel Premier, not just because it can hold 1,000, but just the design of it. What I don't like about this one is this compressed wood. It's just held together with glue, right? So when this is exposed to humidity and heat over time, those things are going to start to warp, especially if you have really heavy weight in the middle. It's just going to slowly start to bow. For my money, I would just go ahead and spend the extra 10 bucks and get the metal. And then if you need a smooth surface, you could just put some plywood on top of it.
The second thing you really want to consider in a shelf is what you're going to be putting on it. How much does it weigh, but also the size of it. Are you going to be doing boxes? Are you going to be doing like the Commander bins, those 27-gallon bins?
Kind of walk down so you can see how wide they are, and you can also get a sense of how deep they are. This is one of the smaller shelves. This is the biggest shelf. This is one of the smallest shelves. It's a little more deep, I should say, this way, and not so wide. Whereas the Commander is not as deep and longer, if you can see back there, but it sticks out past the Craftsman by a few inches. And then the Blue Hawk, which is kind of somewhere in the middle.
Adjustable feet. Some of these shelves have adjustable feet, some do not. Something to consider. If you're putting it in a garage, most garages have a little bit of a slope to allow any water that gets in there to go out of the home, down the driveway. So they can be a little bit uneven. So depending on where you're putting this, that might be more important to you. So let's talk about the ones that are adjustable.
The Blue Hawk does not have adjustable feet. The Commander has adjustable feet. The Craftsman does. The Style Selections, yes, it does. Those little black, it's hard to see, but they unscrew, they adjust. And then these two all-metal shelves do not adjust. So those are fixed, which is quite annoying. They don't sit level. I think once you loaded them up with weight, they probably would settle in. But on my garage floor, when I had it out here in the middle, they were wobbling around, which I didn't like. So the adjustable ones, the ones with adjustable feet, are this one, and this one.
Another consideration is whether the shelves are adjustable or not. Let's get into the specifics of that.
When it comes to adjustable shelves, the plastic ones are all fixed. So you cannot adjust the height of those shelves. They are where they are. Style Selections, you can adjust these shelves to go anywhere you want them to go. Obviously, you're going to want one near the bottom and you're going to want one near the top. So it's really mostly the three in the middle that you're going to be adjusting, but they can go anywhere. If you look here, anywhere there's one of these lines, you can have a shelf there. So this is highly adjustable. The Edsel Premier and the Muscle Rack, the Edsel Muscle Rack, these are, we'll call it semi-adjustable because you're going to need one near the bottom. Again, you're going to need one at the top, and then you have to have one, we'll zoom in here, you have to have one in the middle to connect the bottom and the top posts together. See, there's two different posts. You have to have a shelf here in the middle to connect them. So that one, so really the middle shelves are fixed. So what you're left with are those two are adjustable and those two are adjustable. So that's why I call this a semi-adjustable. So if you have something very specific that you need to hold and you have to, that's particularly tall, you might consider these if they don't happen to fit in here.
Another consideration could be whether or not it holds those Commander 27-gallon bins. I have 3 of them. I like them a lot. So if you're wanting to load up these shelves with those bins, let's look at how well that works for you.
This Commander shelf is really cool because they designed it around those bins. So you can fit 2 of them side by side on each shelf. So you get 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 Commander bins can fit in this. Now the downside here is when you're putting them side by side, they're going to stick out a few inches past the shelf and a few inches past over here. So they do fit side by side, but it is going to stick out a little bit. So depending on your setup, that may or may not work for you. You can fit the Commander bins in the Blue Hawk, but only 1 per shelf. Same with the Craftsman, same with the Style Selections. And on the Edsel Premier, you can also fit 2 side by side. So you could fit 10 on there as well. The Muscle Rack, you could only fit 1 per shelf.
As much as possible, I like to buy things that are made in the USA. Some of these are, some of these are not.
The 3 plastic shelves are all made in the USA. The Style Selections is made in China. And the 2 Edsels are made in the USA-ish. So both of them say on the packaging they are made in the USA, or they're packaged in the USA from materials that are made in the USA and materials that are imported. So, I mean, hey, it's something, right?
What are you putting on these shelves? Is everything going to be in a box, or do you have loose items that you're going to be placing on these shelves? If you have loose items, then whether or not these shelves have holes in them or the size of the holes should be something to consider.
I wanted to give you a closer look of the holes in the shelf depending on what you might need to put on this. So these have pretty big holes in them. This is the Blue Hawk. The Commander has smaller holes, a little bit smaller holes, kind of like the Craftsman. And then obviously the metal ones have the biggest amount of holes there. And this guy, and then this one has a completely smooth surface.
One unique feature that is on the Commander and the Craftsman here is that they are interlocking. And these are the only two of all these that offer that option.
So you'll see these little slots here. What you can do, there's a little plastic piece that slides down in here, and then you put another one right next to it and you've locked them together. And then you can also have them, you know, back to back or front to front, however. And this one works very similarly. The slots are just in a slightly different place. So that is a really neat feature if you're going to line a wall with 2 or 3 of these and you want them all locked together. That's really cool.
Let's talk about pricing. So these range from $55 for the Blue Hawk up to the Edsel Premier at $90. As far as the pricing, so down here we have the Blue Hawk and the plastic shelves. So the Blue Hawk, the Commander, the Craftsman. If I were choosing between these 3, so let's say my weight, I only needed 200-300 pounds per shelf, and that's all I needed, and you're looking at these plastic ones, so your pricing goes from $55 up to $75. So of these 3, I would not get the Blue Hawk. Overall, I don't like the fit and finish of it, and it's just the most cheap and chintzy feeling of them. I would rather go with one, and I don't like the kind of the size of it, the size of the shelves. I feel like the Commander has probably the most usable size of shelf. Craftsman a close second. So if it were me and my money, I would probably go with the Commander, partly because I have the Commander bins and I like using those. And also I just like that it's not as deep and it's wider. So you get a lot of shelf for your money. It fits together really nicely. You get the interlockability, adjustable feet. So of the 3 plastic ones, I think the Commander is probably my favorite. When we look at the higher or the more costly shelves, although this is $77, which is just a few bucks more than the Craftsman. But when we look at these, the metal ones and the slightly higher end in price ones, the style selections, I would only go with this if you just really like the design and you need the NSF rating on this. I think this is a good option, but otherwise I wouldn't go with this. I don't like the size of it, at least for my garage. When I'm considering, do I want this for my garage? No, I wouldn't get this for my garage. It's just not big enough. And for the same money, I can get a lot more shelf space on something like the Commander. So I would probably go that route versus this one. I also don't like that, you know, things can fall through here so easily. Now, when we consider the Edsel Premier and the Edsel Muscle Rack, for the money, I wouldn't get this one either. Similar reasons. This one is not as big, and I'm worried about this particle board, compressed wood thing, warping and bending over time. I don't like that. For the same $80, you know, I can go down here and I can get a Craftsman or a Commander, save 10 bucks, and I'm getting more usable shelf space. It's easier to put together, easier to work with. I would go that route. Now, that leaves the Edsel Premier. This is a nice shelf. You get a lot of space, and it is the most expensive. You got 1,000 pounds, so you don't have to worry about whatever you put on this thing. It's probably going to be fine and handle it. The only thing I might do on this is add a piece of plywood to the bottom shelf or 2, and that way I can put things like my air compressor, anything with feet, any tools that you have or anything with feet on it. It's not going to work well if you try to stick it through this metal. It's just going to fall right through, right? So one little upgrade I would do to this, at least on 1 or 2 shelves, would be add a piece of plywood. Then I think you have a really nice shelf. Otherwise, I would probably go with the Commander or the Craftsman, something like this, because I think for most people and for myself, 200-300 pounds, 200 or 250 pounds, excuse me, it's probably going to be plenty of shelf.
My quick summary and rating of all these is this. This one, nah, wouldn't do it. This is nice. If you got the money, I would add some plywood. This one, I wouldn't do it. Craftsman, this is a good maybe one. If you like Craftsman and have some of their bins, Commander's probably my favorite plastic one. I like that you can put two Commander bins on here and it works nicely. I like the size of the shelf. Blue Hawk, I wouldn't do it.
If you found that helpful, be sure and give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see all the other products I'm reviewing. I've also got some projects I'm working on. We'll be releasing those videos soon. All right, thanks for watching, y'all.